Everybody, we get lots of questions about how to install our trim rings in the bed system. This is specifically about installing the trim ring. I'm in a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter 144 high roof, and we're going to show you exactly how we install this trim ring. It's a really simple process. This is the trim ring. You can see in this instance we've color matched it to the van that's already been painted. And I want to point out something that you'll see in the video. I don't want it to be confusing. This is bed metal that we use when we install our bed system, and the reason I'm showing this to you now is because you're going to see this installed when we install the trim ring. If you've bought the bed system in addition, just go ahead and watch that video. This just fits up here like this. It rivets into place and it gives you the spot that you're going to mount the bed rail. But let's get back to installing the trim ring. Here's essentially what we're going to do. This is a pretty simple process. In the past we used to provide a template, and then there's enough anomalies in the fit of the van that sometimes the trim ring doesn't fit great with that pre-cut shape. So here's the way to create the best fit for your application. Just insert the trim ring in its home inside the flare, and you'll see it doesn't really move up and down and left and right very much. That's intentionally. We designed this to fit inside the cutout really closely, and so it might even be a little bit snug. You just put it into place, and you'll notice that if there's any area where it sticks out past the ribs, the best thing you'll want to do is just sand it down a little bit so it fits in here flush with the ribbing. So we've already done that with this. This one came out of the box and fit just great. Came out of the molds and fit just great. And so now what we're going to do is tape this into place. You can see that it fits in here just fine. We're going to tape it. Then we're going to put our wall panel right over the top of it, and then reach inside the hole that's been cut. We'll trace that out, we'll cut it out, and then we'll attach this trim ring to the wall panel, and then install the wall panel to the van, right? That's the whole process, and this is what it looks like as we do it. So you can see as we tape this in, we're literally just using some painter's tape and taping it into position. Now the only thing that's important to know as you do this is to make sure that you don't tape over the opening, because then you won't be able to trace it out, which you'll see here is the next step in the process. Okay, but that's all we're doing. We fit it in there so we liked exactly where it fit. Then we just taped it into place. The next thing we're going to do is take the wall panel and put it right over this, put a couple screws to hold it in place and trace it out. And this is what it looks like. So here we go installing the wall panel. That just fits right in place. We're going to put some screws in to hold it, and then we're literally going to trace this out on the inside. Okay, so all we did was install the wall panel. We put a couple screws in to hold it, and now I'm literally going to take a Sharpie or a pencil, and I'm just going to trace that trim ring line so we know where to cut out this panel. Okay, so this is now the back side. I just traced this. Here's a pro tip for you. I was using a Sharpie, and a Sharpie is so long that it's interfering with the flare and the other stuff in there. I usually use a pencil that's maybe 2 inches long so I can stick it in there, and the back end of the pencil isn't rubbing on the flare or anything else that it's interfering with, so you get a nice clean line around there. But it's no problem. We can connect the dots here. We're gonna go ahead and cut this out. Then we'll test fit it. We'll sand down anything that we don't like. And then we'll go ahead and take the trim ring out. We'll attach it to this wall panel. And then we're going to put the wall panel right back in place. The trim rings will be installed. Okay, now we have the cut piece. All we're going to do is test fit it right back in the same spot. We're going to screw it in through those same holes we made last time. And we'll see how Brian did with his jigsaw. Okay, so this is the moment of truth. We just put this right back into place, attached it with the 2 screws that we had in there before, and now I'm just kind of feeling it's actually better to do with a gloved hand. You'd get a couple splinters. This curves a little bit rough, but by the time you upholster this piece, you can also sand that to manage the shape a little bit. I wouldn't worry about it at all, and otherwise this really fits along here nice. That's it. We're going to take this down. Now we're going to show you how we attach this trim ring to this panel, and then we're going to put the whole thing up and we'll be done. Okay, we just took this out of the van. We're going to attach the wall panel to the trim ring. So the first thing we did was lay the trim ring on the panel, on the table I mean, And then we laid the wall panel right over the top of the trim ring. And now we just want to make sure it's perfectly positioned the same as it was inside the van. That's really easy to do. We're just going to make sure that this is laying on here in the exact spot. So we're just feeling along here to make sure everything lines up. This probably needs to slide down a little bit. That lines up, and this lines up all the way around the corner. Okay, so all we're doing here is we're going to put 4 screws into this thing. We're just finding the midpoint this way, and we're going to find the midpoint this way, and then we're going to back those screws an inch off the edge. We'll drill the pilot holes and we'll put the screws in right behind it, and then it'll be mounted. Now you might be watching this and wondering, why are these knuckleheads attaching bare plywood to the trim rings? It's not upholstered yet. Great observation. That's intentional. We're trying to make sure that everything fits perfectly first. We can mount this into position on the van. Once we like the way everything fits, we'll take this right back off. We'll take these screws out. We'll take this to the upholstery shop, and then we'll get it back from the upholstery shop and put it right back on here just like this. But then we'll know that everything fits because we dry fit it first. You follow those steps, it's really difficult to mess up. So make sure you take that trim ring in exactly where you want it, put the wall panel up, screw it in place, and then just trace that thing out, cut it out, make sure it fits great, attach it. Now we're just attaching this. Look, man, it fits in there great. Okay, one of the things that we're trying to address when we create the trim ring and the fit of this trim ring is how it actually fits against the inside wall of the flare. Now remember, you're going to put 1/4-inch closed cell foam on the inside wall of the flare plus material, and so we intentionally designed this to fit a little bit off the flare. Now sometimes there turns out to be a bigger gap just on the strange anomalies of the way vans come together. That's okay. In those instances, what we do is put a little more padding, maybe instead of 1/4-inch closed cell foam, put a second layer there if you need to. But what you'll find is once you press this up into place, when this is a finished surface, it should pinch onto the surface of the flare and kind of make that go away and look like a seamless deal. If it isn't, that's why we dry fit everything. Where I've got a little bit more of a gap in some of the section, let's say it was over here, I would just know that I need to build that up a little bit more on the curve of the inside wall of the flare. And as long as I have everything like this in a dry fit, I can design any way that I need to solve for any of those gaps that might occur that are more significant than what you might want otherwise. But I'll also tell you, once you upholster this, all of it just kind of disappears, man. What you'll notice is what you put in place, but otherwise nobody else is going to notice. So if you were super wise in your purchase decisions, you also bought the full wall and ceiling panel kit from us. And if you have done that, then this is a great time to go ahead and dry fit all of the panels. Now that we've got the trim ring in place, you can just put the panels in their positions, dry fit them all, assuming everything fits. Sometimes there's just some enough anomalies in the van and the fits that sometimes it'll bind here, or you'll find that it binds along the top here, or maybe your floor is a little bit different thickness than what we had planned for, and you'll need to make some cuts. Once you have all those cuts and everything is screwed into place, you don't have to put tons of screws in. We're talking about a couple screws per panel, maybe 3 depending on how much curvature. And then make sure everything fits. When it fits, you just take the screws out, number all the panels so you know exactly where they go, and your upholsterer doesn't upholster the wrong side. Take them to your upholstery shop, drop them off, you pick them up in a couple days, and then it's ready to go right back up into place, and voila, you've got a finished van.